What's up, dudes? Today we're going to be speculating on the next Dead by Daylight chapter a little bit. Now, I think we have some pretty solid information that can at least point us in a good general direction for what could be happening next for Dead by Daylight. Now, whether this actually happens or not, as soon as I'm saying it happens, is left to be seen, right? Because there have been chapters, there have been killers that have been teased years prior, which we're going to talk about in this video, and, you know, they didn't come out for years. So, really, we have to take all of this with kind of a grain of salt with when it could happen. Before we get completely into it, though, if you guys don't care if you like the video, by the end of the video, please leave a like on the video. It helps out the channel more than you know, and it really helps with the algorithm. It shows the video off to more people, and if you do want more Dead by Daylight content like this and fighting game content, if you're into that as well, please subscribe to the channel and turn those notifications on. But let's go ahead and jump into this one. So let's start with the most obvious one. This is like the one that's the most in our face. If you made it through the archives for the Observer in this tome for Dead by Daylight, then you will have seen the cutscene where the Observer shows up at a big, scary, spooky castle, and he's walking through the castle. He's seeing bats that pull eyes out and other weird, crazy shit, bloody, dead soldiers everywhere, and as he gets up to the person who seems to be responsible for it all, he's sitting there drinking, blood covered on his face, drinking a blood chalice. Now, who does that remind you of? Now, to me, that seems like a classic telling of Dracula. Vlad the Impaler. And even if you take a look, if you pause the video at a certain spot, like when it's very close up to this very Dracula looking person, there is actually pictures of Vlad the Impaler. Not like pictures because the man died a long time ago, but there are like artist drawings for like Dracula and everything like that. And always on the like helmet thing he's wearing, there's always this little insignia, this little emblem. And if you look at this picture that I have from Google that I found, but on other pictures of Vlad the Impaler, it's always there. And then you look at the mask, the helmet, whatever the fuck that thing's called on his head, the same little emblem is there. So I think we have a good basis to stand on if it wasn't already obvious with like the bats flying around and, you know, the blood coming from his mouth and, you know, the drinking blood. If it wasn't already obvious that this is Dracula, I think that really puts the connection together with Vlad the Impaler, because Vlad the Impaler is a very popular figure in history who inspired Dracula. That is the one that's like extremely obvious. They put it right in our face, you know, this is what this is, right? Well, there's another one that not a lot of people may have noticed. A few more people who like are into speculation and theorizing and putting clues together and everything else may have noticed this. But if you look at the very last item in the rift that you earn for reaching tier 70, the Blood Moon, and the description of it, and it says an ominous sign dripping in blood. Now, it's very interesting that we have these teases put together. What is the Blood Moon a tease for? What is an ominous sign dripping in blood? Well, in the most popular versions of Werewolf or Lycan, folklore, whatever, history, modern pop culture, even 70s pop culture with American Werewolf in London, it's always related to a full moon, a blood moon. And that moon causes the transformation from man into werewolf. So I think it's very interesting that all at the same time we have these teases for Dracula and we have these teases for werewolves, because I'm pretty sure they said not too long ago, or it might have been a long time ago, it probably was a while ago when the game was first getting started, a lot of people were asking for Dracula, a lot of people were asking for werewolves, and they always said that they weren't going to do any non-humanoid characters, any non-humanoid killers, and then they ended up doing like Demogorgon, and that whole thing went out the fucking window, and now we're seeing all these crazy killers, which is awesome. I'm happy to see these killers because they are such popular monsters in pop culture. And I think it's very cool that we're getting all these teases together. The one thing that I'm very curious about when it comes to it is they're teasing them at the same time. Would that be like maybe the first ever double killer chapter? I think that'd be very interesting to see, a double killer, or maybe two killers plaguing a one, not in any way like the twins, but kind of like a tag team throughout the match. I don't know how that would work, but it's interesting to me. Now you might be asking, how do you know that this is anything? How do you know this isn't just the devs making some cool ass cutscenes with some cool ass art and putting a blood moon with a, you know, a funny saying on it at the end of the rift because it looks cool. Well, if you think back, the Blight was actually teased like this. The event called the Hallowed Blight that started in 2018 was pretty much the start of the teases for the Blight, and in the archives, when the tome started in the archives, there was even a big whole thing for the Blight about how the Hallowed Blight takes over the entity's realm, and the entity essentially has to purge it from itself. It's like a virus inside the entity's realm, and that was like the start of the teases for the Blight. All of that was leading up to that character, him being infected with the Blight, him having to use it, being addicted to it, whatever. You know, that was the start of those, the teases for the character. And that started all the way back in 2018. So I think it's very, very likely that these could be teases. Now, again, like I said, those started all the way back in 2018, and we didn't see the Blight until, I think, late 2020, something like that. Yeah, late 2020. But the point is, the characters still came. The characters still came out, and I think with these two characters, killers, whatever you want to call them, monsters, vampires, and werewolves being so popular in pop culture, I think there's almost a 90% chance we could see both of them at this point in Dead by Daylight within the next year and a half. And I do think this is the start of the teases for them. I think there's going to be at least a few more teases before we see the characters in the game. Now, of course, there is another chapter coming out in around a month and a half, actually. We're doing the mid-chapter rework for the Trickster right now. We're about to have that in just a week or so. So we're already halfway to the next chapter. So we'll see if this ends up being one of the characters. But if not, I think this is the start of the teases. We'll see a few more teases and possibly see Dracula at least by the end of this year. But I'm excited to see what happens. I can't wait to see if it's Dracula or a werewolf. I like werewolves more than Dracula, but Dracula would still be sick. Let me know which one you would prefer in the comments down below. I'm very interested to hear what you guys have to say about this. Do you think this is teases? Do you think people are just reading too far into it? I think these are like set in stone teases, and I have thought they were set in stone teases since the Blight started getting teased. If a character's ever gotten teased in the Rift since then, I've been pretty set in stone and believing that more would be teased like that, and what we see in the Rift in the archives is a pretty good sign of what we'll see in the game. But let me know what you guys think. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. My name is Tootin. I've been your host, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.